Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rise Above Justice Movement podcast. My name is Zachary Mallory, and I am the founder of the Rise Above Justice Movement and the Rise Above Justice Movement, the podcast. Today, I'll give a viewer discretion as advised due to the nature of the topics that we will be discussing. Today, I am joined by the legendary Jimanekia. Welcome to the Rise Above Justice Movement podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I am so excited because you are a sex educator, sexual assault and trauma expert. You do so many incredible things. You also have this gorgeous aesthetic that I just cannot look past. And the pictures that you share on social media are literally
Curated. They're curated.
so I would love for you to introduce yourself, walk us through what led you to becoming a sex educator, sexual assault and trauma expert. Walk us through your journey. Again,
Mhm.
I am so excited to have you on here. It is an absolute honor.
Yeah, well, buckle up. Here we go, everyone. Get your seatbelts, get your snacks. I always like to say that I'm going to say a few hard things, even though we have a warning ahead. Just getting ready. So take a breath, just a little inhale and a little exhale. Okay, great. We're going to do it. So I often introduce myself these days as a child of trauma. I've experienced multiple types of trauma. And the reason that I say child of trauma, that was the beginning. That was my origin story. For some, it could be a villain arc. I don't know yet, maybe still to come. But when I was one, my mother was murdered in front of me by my sperm donor. And I was almost kidnapped, which I've learned recently. Someone missed that part of telling me that journey. I found out that I was almost kidnapped a few years ago when I was reading through the police documents that my grandmother, who raised me, finally gave to me about the case. And so, I don't have memories of that event per se. I feel like I have like flashes, and then I have thoughts of, is that a memory or did I create that? And that's the tricky parts about being human is we don't always know. And I think that's also a trauma response, right? I was raised by my grandparents, her parents, and my aunts. And I really believe that the way that they raised me has allowed me to exist in this way. They allowed me to kind of blossom like my own little rose set. Like I was my own rose set, different variances, right? Like I was a bouquet and they let me exist. There were boundaries and structures, but also it was like, all right, if she's watching wrestling, I guess that's what we're doing. She's listening to rock music. Oh, she wants to go to this. Oh, she wants to go to school for this. Okay, she's changing her hair color. But they were always like, you were smart and you do the things. Like I stayed out of trouble. I ended up going to school and studying criminal justice. And my third year of college, 21 years of age, I woke up one night and someone that I had been with before was standing over me naked with a condom on. So many things just like flashed through my head in that moment. It was the thoughts of what the fuck? First. Second, what's going on? And it's like, why are you naked? Why is there a like it's so many things happening and he kind of just rolls me over. And I don't know if I was sleeping naked. Honestly, I don't remember. I don't remember if he stripped me. I do remember not having clothes at the end, but he proceeded to have sex with my body. And later age me now knows that I fawned and has language for it. 21-year-old me did not have that language. And I'm so glad that more people are getting it to understand what happened. But I fawned in that moment and I was in motion and I did not fight him because I also knew that man had an obsession with weapons. I had seen them. I knew who he was. And this is something I do like to talk about with folks is the ways that we still see our abusers in the ways that we are confused about what may have happened. Like I was like, was that rape? What happened? But my body felt violated. And sometimes our body will tell the stories in the sense that our brain doesn't connect with that. So I invite in a little breath for yourself, a little break for yourself. I did see him again. I saw him multiple times again. He tried to get me into polygamy. And this is before I became a sex. Again, I was a baby. I was in my early 20s. You're still a whole child, unfortunately. And it changed my life for good and for bad, right? Like, I will also say it changed my life for good. I feel like I am on the path that I'm supposed to be. So I finally got kicked out of school at this age and I changed my degree to psychology. Everyone around me was like, oh, we knew this was for you. And I was like, someone could have said something. We could have saved money, y'all. But I went to school for psychology, changed schools, continued, and I became a rape crisis counselor. So that was my first entrance into working with sexual assault survivors. Mind you, 21. This is the same year I was assaulted, and I had not told anyone. I did not tell anyone that I was raped until I was 28. We'll get to her. And so I started working, and really it was volunteer work. And so I was that person where I went through all the training, all the knowledge and stuff. So it wasn't like I just showed up one day. Like, no, it was serious training for this volunteering. And like, I was the person that sat in the hospital room with you and held your hand or talked to you or whatever you wanted in that moment as you were getting your start kit and having to go through that. And that was the most humbling and life-changing thing. And also, as a survivor in that moment that also had never told anyone, right? And then I would imagine, like, what if this was my friend? Like, there were so many things, and it was, I'm not going to say it was easy work, but it was so connected. Like maybe it was easy for me. Like it just made sense. Like I don't think I chose this work. I think this work chose me. I think this work has been within me. And I think I'm just getting started in the ways of working and understanding the things, which is also a gift. So from there, I, like I said, went back to school, changed my major to psychology. I started working with juvenile sex offenders. So this is when things started to change. I worked there for 2 years. It was a very interesting experience. It was a group home, 11 homes, 6 boys per house. I worked there for 2 years and no house was ever empty. That's wild. And the kids range from 11 to 18 because, of course, as we know, once you turn 18, you're an adult and there's no longer any support, which I think is such bullshit, but that's another conversation. Um, and then I continued working in mental health and I worked with teenagers and dual diagnosis and then I worked in eating disorders. And what kept hitting me as I tried to avoid it was sexual assault. And what also was hitting me was my drinking problem. So I looked like I was becoming so fun in the life of the party, but I started carrying a bar in my trunk and it was a drink that I fucking hate. A cherry vodka sour is such an easy drink to have. Grenadine, sweet and sour vodka. Could carry that in my trunk. I had cups, but I only drink at night, which blessed be. But it was such a problem because I would drink and I'm so thankful that I was never harmed, that no one around me was ever harmed. But it was bad. In around 25, I needed to change. I needed to change. I had moved back home. My mom, my grandmother was like, I don't even know you anymore, blah, blah, blah. It was a lot. I needed something. For survivors, they often say, you need to get a therapist. I like to say yes, and as someone that has been studying psychology since I was 16, also the understanding of the buildup of who I am. I've been studying psychology since I was 16. I did study criminal justice and went back and studied criminal justice later in life a little bit. And then psychology, 16. And then I did it as a degree in my 20s. And so there's so much background and understanding that I have had to be able to show up and do all this work, which is really cool. Anyway, I went spiritual first and I learned how to get back into my body before I could do anything else. Slow down the drinking, figured out how to meditate. I had a coach that I worked with and I got into the crystals and sitting with myself in astrology, not into like learning all the things, but just like, well, this is the thing. And just, I like to learn, I like to research. Learning makes me feel grounded. Education makes me feel grounded. And so I knew things were changing. I decided that I wanted to change careers. My background is mental health. I've worked in all the places for all the times. And I said, I would like a job that is ever evolving and never boring. And I was like, oh my God, sex. My grandmother was like, oh, hell, what now? Because again, remember, she's a journeyer. And I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And I went to every conference I could find. If you want to become a sex educator, there's so many conferences, go to them. You know, a lot of them have volunteer opportunities. That first year, I went to Sex Geek Summer Camp, which does not exist anymore. And that is where I met some of my friends that I currently are so close with now. We've been friends next year, 10 years, which is crazy. Um, Figured out what I wanted to do. I can combine my mental health with being a sex educator. I didn't need to revamp everything as you combine them because sex and being a survivor, they're kind of highly connected. And a lot of times we get fucked and not in the way, like in the mental, emotional, not understanding our body's ways. And yes, I also realized I said we get fucked in the sexual assault. Sometimes humor helps, y'all. We are laughing, we are breathing. If we are breathing, we are present. That is something I have used in my work because this work is hard. Talking about it is hard. And I figured out I could be that person that could talk about it. Again, I don't think I need to reinvent the wheel. I'm not the first nor the last person to talk about sexual assault, unfortunately, but I am me. And somehow that has worked. And I had the Jimanekia project that I started in 2016, and I founded Tending the Garden in 2019, which is my nonprofit for survivors that are marginalized. And we just launched a community space in April. We would love to have you get 30 days free. And then Cintima is the intimacy coordinator training company that I co own with two other amazing people, which we just celebrated 3 years and our first film festival. And I also do true crime support work with my closest friends, Lenora Claire. So I have gotten to do some really amazing things in this world. And so when I say I am thankful and not. I don't know if I would be this person if I had not gone through all of these things, right? My life would have been totally different if my mother was alive. My life would be totally different if I didn't change schools. My life would be totally different if I didn't say yes to adventures. I don't know. So that's kind of how I got here, and I'm still here doing things.
And I am so damn glad that you are because you do it in such a way that is really easy to digest. And it brings like this trauma, like, God, it brings like this trauma effect in a more positive light. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm trying to think of the
Mhm.
best way to word that, but it brings like this like anti-stigmatized aspect to it and shattering a lot of the narratives because you teach about sex in the way that, I would have loved to have learned as a child, right? In sex
Yeah.
education. And even more reason why we need to go beyond this whole abstinence only bullshit. Let's be real, because it doesn't do anything. It literally does not. And it does do something, but it doesn't teach boys to be held accountable. And we have this narrative, and I know, I'm 29 years old. I graduated high school in 2015. Boys will be boys, and that culture of boys will be boys. So I would love for you to bring your energy into debunking that boys will be boys narratives that we still have and we're still teaching our younger generations directly. So what is your thoughts whenever you hear boys will be boys?
I think it's a disservice that we do for them. I actually have been talking more about this in this year. And I think it's maybe the relationships that I've been expanding on and, just doing more research and being connected with people. But I've been talking about more about the ways that we need to be held accountable as society, as a community, for the ways that these boys are now, right? Like, yes, we grow up and we are whole people, but also our first educators, our first teachers our families, our parents. And the next step is like school and friends. Well, really friends and then school, right? If we're going in order. But the ways that we continue to pass down these violent narratives of if you like her, you could push her. Why are we putting hands on people? You could use your words, right? Like I wish there was a conversation that also allowed for boys to be allowed to have feelings and exist, right? Feelings are not just for those of us that have vulvas and vaginas. Feelings are for everyone because we all got them. And the ways that men, boys, we're going to stick to that narrative, are taught to push it down and keep pushing forward, that is a buildup of energy. That is a buildup in them, and they don't know how to unleash it. And also, they're being taught be pushed through. If no means yes, keep going. You deserve it. You should take it. And then there's no accountability. So boys will be boys. Boys don't have to be boys in the ways that they are currently being taught. So I think that it's also our fault. And we get to undo that when we have children. Not me. I'm not doing that. But the ways of teaching, the ways of having conversations, and also the ways of holding people accountable, right? We need to start holding these children accountable in preschool, in elementary school, in middle school, in high school, because these are all learned behaviors, right? Are sociopaths real? Absolutely. But all this other shit, these are all learned behaviors. So that means we can help them unlearn and we can help them have better fucking behaviors. That's my thought on boys will be boys.
Absolutely. And see, I wish I would have known that whenever I was growing up and somebody would have told me that because I thought that that was the standard. It's like, I can do this and I can get away with it because it's chopped up to boys will be boys. And my mom was like, no, what you don't understand is, yeah, you're going to do this, but you're going to have a real consequence. One of these times, you're going to run into somebody that's not going to be lenient, or you're not going to run into somebody who's going to be understanding, and you're going to have a consequence for your direct action. My mom always taught me that. So in a way, I learned a lot from her and I learned how to be a better human because of her. and have more empathy towards people, because there is a direct difference between empathy versus sympathy. There's a direct difference. Now, being the founder of like tending the garden or tend the garden, you know, in a lot of like the intimacy coordination and things like that, for those who don't understand about have an intimacy coordinator on set or even like a mental health coordinator now, why is that important in settings like film and settings like like even like acting on set, anything that has to do with like production.
Yeah, I think there's the a lot of that I think that a lot of that has to do with jobs that have intense power dynamics. And so that is something that we definitely talk about and teach in our course is like understanding what power dynamics can look like, what they can be assumed to be. And also it's a vulnerable field of work, right? Like there's only so many spots and there's only so many black ladies they're going to let in. Let's be real. There's only so many black men. There's only so many Latinas. There's only so many Asian spots, and then they're like, "You're Chinese, but you could be Korean." Like, it's crazy. There's only so many spots, and so people do things to get those spots because I live in SoCal. I'm in LA all the time. I think it's fugazi. I think it's pretend. I love LA though, but I am past all the nonsense. But it is such a place that doesn't feel real. And so having these sets and needing someone to go, "Hey, are you okay? How can I support you? Do you feel like you can't speak up for yourself? Oh, I got you. Oh, you need help. How do I help you make this feel better for you? How do I help you make it feel safer?" That is why this exists. And so it's so important. And honestly, having someone to be present in their body is going to translate better on set. So having an intimacy coordinator is a win. Having them to possibly be able to help you choreograph. Like in our program, we do most of it is online. So modules 1 through 3 are online. Module 4, you have to come in person for 4 days. So all of that you learned, you're going to be testing that in person. So we're going to teach you how to make those sex scenes look real, how to make that blowjob look real, but really you're doing this. And being able to have those people on set for you is also really helpful. It's going to look better. The actors are going to feel better because they know they're going to look good. Actors want to look good. It's a part of the thing. And so I'm so glad that I'm not going to say the Me Too movement happened because I think Me Too has been happening for a long time and it just got picked up by a bunch of white ladies. And then other people were like, girl, we can talk about this, but don't let me get really deep in that. But it was happening. So I do want to say that I am so glad because there's so many stories of people that come out after. There's like, "Oh, I wish I had this because X, Y, and Z." Like, that's continued trauma that now we have trained these people to be able to support you. That's amazing. That's also going to allow these people to work more and continue to create more. I feel like having an intimacy coordinator is such a win because artists get to be artists. And that is a part of Cintima. Like, we want to support artistry. So I think everyone needs them and should really stop being so scared of them. They're not the sex police. We like sex. So it's like it's a part of the job. And we want to do it so people feel present and safe. And we can do that.
Yeah. Absolutely. One of my close friends just went through the training of becoming a mental health coordinator, which is
Hmm.
also incredibly crucial to have on set. And especially with her background in being a true crime producer and working on different like true crime documentaries, I think obviously that mental health coordination piece in that realm is also incredibly crucial. But I was talking to one of my actor friends and I was talking about intimacy on set and she was like, I really wish we would have had an intimacy coordinator on set, because she said there was some she's a survivor herself. So there are parts of, her scenes that she's been a part of that were deeply triggering. And she's like, and who the hell am I going to
Sure.
run and talk to? Who am I going to talk to? Right? She's like,
Yeah.
there's nobody there that I am going to be able to go talk to. I'm not going to be able to go talk to the producer. I'm not going to be able to talk to. So she's like, I really wish I would have had, an intimacy coordinator on set. So she's a big advocate for it now. She's like, yeah, I'm not going to do anything that doesn't have one. She's like, I'm asking these questions like, do you have
Mhm.
this? Do you have that? And I think that power to ask those questions and change the narrative and change the dynamic is incredibly powerful. Now, I want to shift and talk a little bit about like social media and what you've noticed in the forms of like censorship on social media. Because obviously, there are times that we have to go in and if we talk about rape or we talk about sex, we have to put asterisks in order for it to go underneath the algorithm. So,
Mhm.
what are you noticing on social media in realms of like talking about these subjects and even like talking about survivors?
Oh, I've been shadow banned.
It gets shadow banned in that algorithm, especially on meta platforms. But let's shift and talk about some social media things.
Yeah, Meta, you're a suppressive bitch. And that's how I feel about you. And I feel like we're constantly in battle for no reason. It really is wild to me what can be shown, and I don't understand why. There is no real answer. There is no real predicate. The fact that I can get on Instagram, I open it up and I can see a white man shooting a black man in the chest, an older black man in the chest, while he's sitting in a wheelchair. And this is on Instagram. But if I say sexual assault, I'm flagged. That's wild to me. So we are allowed to see people beaten to death, dead bodies, but we can't talk about the ways of supporting your body, about communication, about boundaries. It is really giving 2025 ways that it feels illegal to exist. It feels like my work has become illegal in some ways. And I've been saying that, and I will continue to say that. As also, I saw today that they have now decided that they're no longer to give student loans to certain jobs that are predominantly jobs by women. Again, I can be mad all day. So it's I say mad, but it's such a wild thing. Um, there's just so much there, and I wish that we could have the access, and I think that it's been taken away from because it's powerful. The ways that TikTok has changed, and they wanted to sell it because people were communicating. People were showing what was really happening, and that exposure made people feel vulnerable. When people feel vulnerable, they act out. Hence where we are in 2025, right? People are acting out because they think they're going to get caught up for their shitty behavior. They think they're going to be outed for doing the thing. Listen, it's 2025. Come out the closets. It's going to be a good time for everyone. We love a party. We love a snack. Mental health is here. Like, let's just do that. Let everyone live their truth. And I think we'd be a lot better. Social media has been so helpful for so many people. And also, it has been harmful, right? I think there's always going to be duality in using social media because there is no vetted process. It is unfortunately allowed for everyone, but I think discernment is going to be really helpful. I think you have to be flexible and agile and build community in ways that you can. And I think that's the only way that social media is going to continue and creating ways that exist off the meta platforms. As a girl that uses them, I get it. It's hard, but I can't create it. So someone else, if you want to create it, let me know and we'll go from there. But I think we have to really be honest with ourselves. And unless we're going to get off of them, you have to be agile, you have to adapt. You're going to be pissed off because they keep doing silly shit and understand that. Figure out how to figure out your loopholes, figure out what creative you want to do. And that's what we have to do, unfortunately, right now.
Yeah, no, 100%. I have to agree with you. You know, we have 240 something thousand followers on social media, but I've noticed that our reach continues to continuously drop, especially if we talk about Jeffrey Epstein or we talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
elections or we talk about, even like disabled people. Oh my God. You talk about somebody being disabled and it's the end of the fucking world to this meta platform. Like, God
Suppression's real.
forbid, right? Anyway, so how do we continue to work around suppression? How do we continue to grow as a community, as survivors, as survivor advocates, as intimacy coordinators, as mental health coordinators? How do we move forward? What does moving forward look like? Because it's going to look different to each person. But to you, what's next for you? What are you going to continue working on? What do you see yourself doing in like the next year? Let's kind of like hype each other up because I got some things and I'll share them here in a bit. But what's next for you?
Yeah, I am figuring that out. I am working on new keynotes. I took 2 years off predominantly when my grandfather died, and then I worked doing mental health in professional wrestling. And that was a really nice brain break, honestly. Still love doing the work. It was just very different. And so I feel like I am revamping and coming back as a different person, talking about grief. I think that that's such a big thing, talking about how to build things. There's a few things that I'm working on right now that are going to be coming out, as well as tending the garden. We have this community space and it's just waiting for people. Like we have members, but we can always use more. We need more people to do the support groups. So I want to continue doing that. I want to figure out how to get it funded so we can have, better things in there and expansion. I always want to be able to continue hiring survivors. So that's something I'm going to strive towards, which is also crazy because grants don't exist. So it's a balance right now. So that's something that I'm looking forward to. Cintima is expanding. We just did our first film festival talking about what this upcoming year will look like, what ending this year will look like, what expansions we have. Can't tell you yet, but it's gonna be good. It's really fun, and I am so glad I have things to look forward to. Because right now I am really in revamping the Jimanekia project right now. Jimanekia Project LLC, hello. I feel like my grief work has allowed me to get here, and I'm at a clearer brain space, clearer than I have been in a long time, so I am very thankful for to see what I come up with myself.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think for me, continuing to grow this podcast is obviously something that is very near and dear to me. And giving the voice to the stories that don't reach the headlines, I think has been the most rewarding part of doing this podcast. It's also led me to, and this movement has led me to talking to people like you and Lenora that you mentioned earlier, which I adore the hell out of Lenora, one of my favorite human beings in this entire world. I've also connected with some of the Epstein survivors, connected with, my co-founder Gwen, who is a survivor and turns her rage into music. So we have a lot of things that we're going to look forward to too. And I'm actually going to sit down and begin writing my memoir this next year. And I've been saying that for like the last couple of years, but I'm going to force myself to take some time and relax. And, there's some like writer retreats that I want to like attend and just kind of get out and about and kind of like talk to people more because I think ever since the
Yeah.
pandemic hit in 2020 I've really become a major homebody and I
Mhm.
want to get out and about more and stop being in my mom's space all the time and just really get out and about and just really enjoy like community. I don't do like that whole new year new me bullshit because every time I do it fails. And I always say, oh, next year is going to be better. I said the same thing at the end of 2024. I was like, oh, 2025 is going to be a good year. You know what happened beginning of this year? My mom fell and broke her goddamn wrist. And then she was diagnosed with cancer in April. And then come to find out, they tried to cancel her fucking Medicaid right before she began her cancer treatment. So yeah, I was furious and I was beyond pissed. And I feel like I pull like that whole white chicks moment. Hopefully people get this reference. But walk into that hotel and like, dear Mr. Hampton. Except for this time, I wrote, dear Mr. Fascist, which is the fucking governor of Missouri. Dear Mr. Fascist, my mom deserves her goddamn health care because it's a basic human right. You're gonna give it to her because she paid into it. She's entitled to it. She's also going through cancer. You're not gonna fucking do this. So I was furious, and I mean, I blew up the phones. Like, I was absolutely pissed. But luckily, one of my friends posted on Facebook, and she was like, "Just got a new job," and I was like, "That's a good sign." So I contacted her, or she just got hired on like full time or whatever. I contacted her and I was like, "Hey, we gotta do something." So my mom's getting ready to go through this cancer. That shit's expensive, so I kind of need, her to have her Medicaid. So she got on the phone and she did like her own little like back end things. And according to her, the systems that the states use are so outdated that they're literally like that 12 key thing. Like you have to hit F1 for this, and F2, and F3, F4. Like, damn, showing my age. But going back, I think all of my yelling and everything like paid off because she was able to go through her cancer treatment. So I definitely did something, but navigating those systems is so deeply important to understand how to do. And if you don't know how to do it, get to somebody who does because she did it in a matter of like a week and was able to reactivate my mom's Medicaid, was able to do that. So it's just a real reality of what's happening in the country right now. So with that, how can people contribute to your work And how can people follow you on social media and uplift the beautiful work that you are doing, the beautiful human that you are?
I will receive all of that. I am Jimanekia everywhere on the Instagram, Twitter. I don't really be there anymore. So Instagram, I'm on Messenger, not Messenger, Facebook profile, little business page. It's the same stuff on there. Traumaqueen.love is the website. If you are looking for someone to work with trauma support, that is who I am. I am the Trauma Queen. It's all my business is on traumaqueen.love. Tending the Garden dot love. Yes, dot love is the website. That is where you can find out about Tending the Garden. We're actually going to be redoing that website. I was like, I have not revamped this since launch. And we've been through things. So I need to work on that. And then for Instagram, that's Tending the Garden for the number dot SAS. And then Cintima is Cintima.co. That's the website as well as social media. If you are thinking about becoming an intimacy coordinator, if you want to do it on your own time, if you just have questions, and if you want to come to a company with some magical queers, black ladies, we got you. That's who we are over here. So yeah, those are the main places I'm at.
I just gotta say, ever since the first time I talked to you, and we've been following each other on social media for a while, and I came across recording that you did with Unfiltered Stories, and
Mhm,
I just did mine too, and they did a phenomenal job editing. I was a little nervous because I was like, sometimes some of these don't make any sense, and they paint like this weird picture of somebody's
mhm.
story. So you have to like contact them and be like, hey, so what's this missing piece in your story? Because that did happen. One of my friends did it, and I contacted her, and I was like, this isn't the story that I know. And it's just like, it's just the editing. It's how they edited it. I was like, okay, that makes a
No,
ton
the
of
editing was
sense.
weird. The editing was
But
weird on like the little clip for sure.
yes, and some of it didn't make any sense at all. It is what it is. But then I started like doing more research on you, and I was like, oh, we follow each other on social media. I was like, oh shit, okay. I'm gonna reach out and be like, hey, you want to come on the podcast? And you're like, yeah, yeah,